Welcome, everybody. I have Alexander Malavanov here, and I'm super excited to bring him on the show. I read the book right here, I'm going to read the whole title here The Music of the Divine Spheres, the rediscovered ancient knowledge of human consciousness, sacred geometry, and the Egyptian pyramids that can change your life. I read this a few weeks ago, and I was completely captivated on the information on here. It made me actually rethink a lot about how reality is structured. And he's fascinating. He's a physicist from Russia, and he's here to share his wisdom with us today. Welcome, Alexander.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do and how long you've been doing it? And why did you decide to write this book?
For about 20 years, I've been conducting research in the area of consciousness. During the research, I found that ancient civilizations, compared to us, had a more correct and much deeper understanding of the world. Almost all ancient knowledge was lost by humanity millennia ago. The knowledge I found is so important to humanity, so I couldn't keep it a secret. As a result, two books have appeared: The Music of the Divine Spheres and The Civilization of the Lost Connection. The Music of the Divine Spheres has been created with a dual purpose: unveiling authentic knowledge to contribute to a better world for all, and assisting individuals in fulfilling their incarnation primary task, developing consciousness that will make their life happier and more fulfilling.
The individual's primary task is developing consciousness. Exactly. I love that. I mentioned I read The Music of the Divine Spheres, but you just mentioned The Lost Connection, which actually the Civilization of the Lost Connection, which actually sounds really intriguing. What is that book?
This book's about our intellect and consciousness, what the difference is, and many other things, including the ancient secrets of the ancient words and meaning encoded in these ancient words.
All right. So on your website,
This book was published in Russian in 2019, so it was my first book.
Oh, so it's not translated to English.
Not yet, but I'm working on it.
I really like the title of that. It's intriguing to me. So what led you to decide to start being a writer?
I didn't decide to start being a writer. I started writing the knowledge I've got to preserve it for people. Later, I just edited my writing and added images and drawings to make it understandable for everybody.
You just started writing the knowledge that
Yes,
came
that's
to
the
you.
primary goal.
Oh yeah, because you're a scientist, so it's basically you're just capturing the data on paper, and I really thank you for doing that. Something that interested me a lot, because I've read a few of his books, is that you have a relationship with Dronvalo Melchizedek. So what's your relationship to Dronvalo?
I first learned about Dronvalo in 90s. I read all his books and all the information from him I could find. Later, several times we met in person and discussed various topics. I also participated in several of his workshops. Later, I sent him my book and asked his opinion about the musical instrument I made. I am talking about the wind chimes, which generate sound that resonates with our consciousness. By that time, unfortunately, due to health problem, he no longer communicated with anyone except his family and close friends. But his friends told me that he was delighted with the sound of this musical instrument and was interested in math used to create the sound. But I was lucky to meet not only Dronvalo, but also other extraordinary people and famous spiritual teachers who have ability beyond the regular person's imagination. Among them are Nikolai, Levashov, Cherry, Boris Zolotov, and others. They have special mission on this planet. The experiences I had from conversation with them, attending and conducting spiritual workshops, and as well as teachings of thought, Hermes Trismegistus, directed my attention to study of human consciousness. Why? Because the knowledge of human consciousness, its structure, and the laws governing its development has always been the most important knowledge of any civilization, because consciousness determines everything.
For those of you who aren't familiar, Toth is the same person as Hermes Trismegistus. So if you hear those two names, in general, they're referring to the same person. But for those of us who aren't familiar with the other names that you mentioned, Alexander, who are these other people?
Chariji was a famous Indian master of Sahaj Mark, a master of meditation and clearing of interfering blocks. Boris Zolotov was a master of awakening people and activating the connection with higher self. Nikolai Levashov was the greatest man, the most powerful magician, and one of the high hierarch of light forces. I don't know of anything he couldn't do. If I tell you true stories from his life, you will say that this is impossible. But everything he wrote and told is true because he never lied in his life. He could cure all diseases and materialize and teleport things. He rewired people's brains, after which people acquired new abilities that usually takes millions of years of evolution to develop. He could do many other things, and I saw it myself.
Oh, wow.
It was also he who prevented the disaster in California. When I moved to California in 2007, earthquake happened almost every day. At that time, all scientists warned that the activities of subterranean forces was so high that the continent could break at any moment. If that were to happen, part of the continent would be submerged, and the tsunami wave would circle the planet twice, killing millions, perhaps billions of people. But in 2007 and 2009, everything suddenly stopped, and all scientific articles on the subject disappeared from the view. Levashov, who was living in San Francisco at that time, balanced the planet energies and stabilized the continental plate, causing all big earthquake to stop at once. His work was documented, but then these documents were hidden under secret stamp. Since then, there have only been earthquakes from underground waste explosions, which are easily distinguishable from natural earthquakes. And some of these explosions are also the result of his work. But that was only the least he could do. He was, without doubt, a star genius. He revealed the mystery of life and the structure of the universe. He has given people knowledge that is thousands of years ahead of modern science. Rockefeller called Nikolai Levashov a messiah, but he underestimated Levashov's role and abilities. Levashov was a warrior of light forces, not their messiah, not a messiah of dark forces. For this reason, for about 25 years, the social parasites who seized power on this planet and their bosses in other planes made countless attempts to kill him. But Levashov was able not only to survive, but to destroy many of their evil plans. He knew that one day they may succeed in their attempts to kill his physical body. But he said, "These guys are stupid. They don't understand that I don't need a physical body to do what I do. Without a physical body, I will have even more freedom." Finally, they kill his body and are now trying to hide all the information about him, but they cannot hide it all. Now millions of people have read his books and watched his videos. I encourage you to copy and read his autobiographical and other books on his website, levashov.info, while they are still available. Nikolai Levashov could do things far beyond the boundaries of our universe. He saved our planet at least 3 times, that's what I know for sure. But the people he saved ended up killing him. History tends to repeat itself because people don't remember the past and make the same mistakes over and over again. Why is this happening? Because the level of people consciousness is still low. And how the development of consciousness be accelerated? That is the most important part of the knowledge.
Thank you for explaining that. I didn't really know that, but I definitely do remember earthquakes because I moved to California in 2006. I do remember earthquakes, and now I can distinguish between these underground base explosions. It's a different feeling for sure. And yes, history is repeating itself, and we keep on murdering the people that are up leveling our consciousness, and it's crazy, because the pattern just keeps on continuing. So in your book, The Music of the Divine Spheres, there's so much groundbreaking information here. And I say groundbreaking because it's there you go. It's groundbreaking. It's shattering the normal paradigms of how we think about things is the better way to say it. So could you tell us which knowledge that you described in the books is the most important for us to pay attention to?
This is the knowledge about the structure of our consciousness, how to develop it correctly, and how to accelerate its evolutionary development. Ancient civilizations possess this knowledge, but then humanity completely lost it and forgot it. I also managed to restore the true meaning of many ancient symbols and words. This gives an understanding of the main laws of nature and what society should be like if it develops in accordance with the laws of nature. This knowledge really can help this to change this world for the better.
What would one example of that be?
You may find many examples on my website, milovanovbooks.com. For example, now people have forgotten what true happiness and justice are, but ancient civilizations left this information encoded in ancient words. Many think that they will be happy if they will have a lot of money, but this is a delusion. I saw many super rich people, but I never saw a truly happy face. According to ancient civilizations, to get happiness, the society, the system, and the part, each person, must be in unity and love and follow the higher laws of the universe. This formula helps to clarify why achieving a state of true happiness isn't possible within the existing parasitic social system. The system breaks all three conditions needed to get happiness. Justice has a very similar formula. A just decision can only be made when the person or decision maker possesses the complete truth, operates from a state of love, and aligns their judgment with the laws of the universe. If at least one of these conditions is not met, then the decision has little chance to be fair. That's why it's so little justice in today's world.
Oh wow. So there's equations in there. You have the equation for true justice, and also the equation for they look like equations to me to happiness. You said that the system and the part must be in unity. And
Yeah, and
right.
most excited part is that these equations are encoded in ancient words.
All right, I just want to thank you. I just wanted to repeat your website just so everybody has the exact spelling. It's Milovanov book, so it's MILOVANOV books.com. So, what is the law of the spheres and how does it relate to consciousness?
Ancient Egyptians, for example, knew that our consciousness has a form of cluster of equal spheres. This is a very unique cluster. In it, all distances between the centers of all spheres are equal to the square roots of whole numbers. This is the law of the spheres. This cluster is easy to visualize because the cells of a zygote form a similar cluster, obeying the same law. This is the most optimal and sustainable structure. The level of consciousness is directly correlated with the number of spheres within the cluster. As such, consciousness grows through the formation of new spheres. Because of this structure, each of us has several levels of consciousness that are also related to our energy chakras. Depending on your state, you may have activated a certain level of your consciousness. Low levels correspond to an animal state, a state of survival. For example, when you feel aggression or hate, you are in a low state of your consciousness. When a high level is activated, you can feel love, compassion, the desire to help other people, connection with the whole world, and other higher feelings.
Yeah, I just want to show everybody the for those watching the cover of his book. We've got circles, and then you can see circles layered on top of those circles, and you're essentially saying that the the circles as they layer on top of each other are forming new dimensions, essentially, right? So you mentioned consciousness, and I hear this a lot. From your perspective, though, why is it important to keep our level of consciousness at a high level?
Yeah, this is very important moment because ancient civilization knew that staying in the lower levels of consciousness for a long time destroys its higher levels. However, our informational environment is designed to keep us in the lowest levels of consciousness, in a state of fear, aggression, animal instinct, and hatred to other people, because people in this state are easily controlled and forced to do things that normal people will never do. The whole system of negative news, aggressive sports, rock music, drugs, and so on is created for this very purpose. However, for the correct and accelerated development of your consciousness, you must have the higher levels of consciousness activated. This is necessary condition for the evolutionary development of consciousness. Accelerating development of our consciousness is necessarily for one purpose, which is to reduce our suffering and gain happiness, because our consciousness directly determines our lives. So, depending on how a person lives, their consciousness can either develop or degrade.
Mm. So speaking of practical uses, how can we develop our consciousness?
Many believe that meditation or withdrawing from society are pathway to the development of consciousness. However, these methods only help to stop the intellect. That is to create one of the conditions necessary for developing consciousness. Another essential condition is shedding delusions and embracing the right belief system grounded in accurate knowledge about the world. Now, for the most important thing, I'm going to tell you an ancient secret. There is only one way to develop our consciousness. The spheres of our consciousness are formed only in the process of our active, practical, and creative endeavors aimed at making the world a better place. Taking actions to make the world a better place means living by the laws of nature. When you do this, your spheres accumulate your experience and knowledge of the laws of nature, raising your consciousness to new levels. Actions that make the world worse, that is, those that go against the laws of nature, distort or destroy your consciousness.
Mm. I can see that now because you mentioned that the system and the part must be in unity. And so if you're acting for the highest regard of the system, then you get access to more spheres of consciousness. And if you're degrading the system, then you will degrade in consciousness. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that so simply. So speaking of higher levels of consciousness, what do higher dimensions mean to you? And are we able to experience them? And have you experienced them?
The concept of dimensions can be applied to two things: consciousness and other planes of existence. Consciousness have an infinite number of dimensions, but the number of other planes of existence is limited because our universe is made up only of 7 kinds of matter. If you mean other planes of existence, then all of us has experienced other dimensions because we have come to this world from other dimensions, and we will go to other dimensions. In dreams, for example, we often find ourselves in other planes of existence. I've traveled in these planes and spaces, but I can't say I know everything about them. For example, there is sounding space where you can hear beautiful songs. And I was able to get there once. It was an unforgettable experience. But if you are interested in what other planes of existence actually looks like and what happened in them, then I recommend you to read Svetlana Levashova's book Revelation. You may find it and other amazing books on the Levashov.info website. Svetlana had superpowers, one of which was the ability to get into other planes and not only observe them, but also communicate with the inhabitants and which she described in her book. That book and the truth she revealed cost her life. Therefore, this source of information can be trusted 100%.
Yeah, right. It's like if they get killed, you can pretty much follow that person because they get killed for a reason, because they're speaking truth. You mentioned the 7 kinds of matter. And so could you elaborate a little bit on that? What are the 7 kinds of matter?
Nikolai Levashov named them by letters from A to G. These matters are invisible to our eyes and we cannot feel them by our senses. And this matter of this type interact with each other, so the whole world we are living in is composed of hybrid of these matters. This is a fascinating topic, and it's not so difficult to understand all this, but require much more time than we have today. To better understand all these processes, one may read his book Anisotropic Universe and The Last Appeal to Mankind. You may find these books also on his website, Levashov.info.
Okay, amazing. Thanks for the book, Rex. Anything new that you've discovered recently?
I discovered a lot of new things. For example, after I discovered the laws of the spheres, I tuned 4 musical instruments to tones in the proportions of the spheres of consciousness and conducted experiments with them. I found that this sound resonates with our consciousness and generates certain feelings in us. In this musical scale, unlike the standard musical scale, all tones blends beautifully. Moreover, such a sound activates the consciousness and also produce a healing effect, 100% positive. The same applies to light because colors, the same like sound tones, can be represented by as frequencies. In other words, I managed to find a new musical scale and color scale that resonates with our consciousness. This is a new discovery. This knowledge has the potential to revolutionize the visual arts. In these experiments, my primary focus has been on understanding the ability of sound and light to harmonize and activate consciousness, thereby fostering a connection with one's spirit. And it is this spirit connection that, in my view, holds the key to healing. Indeed, there is a vast potential for further research in this fascinating realm.
Yeah, so if anybody's interested in that, I know that he has at least the beginnings of this research in the book. And for those of us who design instruments, you can get a little bit of a start by getting this book, The Music of the Divine Spheres. Did you make any of these instruments, Alexander, with the perfect musical scales? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I have several instruments. One may hear examples of this sound and the spheres of consciousness YouTube channel. At this moment, I don't have any instrument for purchase, but I expect in a few months they will be available.
So the Spheres of Consciousness YouTube channel, is that your YouTube channel?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go to it, people. What about the light instruments? Have you done any work on those? Because you mentioned light.
Not yet. So far, I just experimented with colors, that is, with reflected light. I haven't had the opportunity to build the real lighting fixtures that can generate light, for example, using LEDs. Maybe I will do something in future.
Yes. Progress. We got to go one step at a time. Please talk about how the frequency of music is harmonious to our system and what it does. And for me, I like solfeggio frequencies. Are those good to listen to?
When I conducted experiments with sound tones, I found that the conventional musical scale is made up in such a way that the proportions between its tones seems to push your spirit down to ground. In addition, as I said earlier, it's not excellent. In it, some tones combined with other tones produce a disharmonious sound that is unpleasant to ear. That is not to say that all existing pieces of music are bad, but their value is determined by influence of the composer, not by octave or musical scale. In the musical scale of the spheres, all tones go well together. In addition to the fact that it has a harmonizing and healing effect, the proportions between the tones lift the listener's spirit upward, directing him to heavens. This has a beneficial effect on both the spirit and the consciousness of the listener.
Okay, so once we get these instruments, something that I was wondering is this something that we should just be listening to like all day long, or is there an optimal time frame that we should be listening or exposed to these tones for?
Now, all people are different. You may listen to the sound as long as you feel it's pleasant for your soul. This can be a few seconds, minutes, or hours, but there is no need to listen it for long because the sound starts working within you immediately.
Okay. All right. Use your intuition, use our feeling state. So, some other information in the book had to do with math and geometry and like basically how man makes it versus how nature has it. And so, what's the difference between what we're taught about math and geometry versus how it is in nature?
Almost everything we've been taught about the geometry and mathematics has come from official science. Most people believe that this knowledge is correct because we are used to believing in science. But we must remember that a few centuries ago, official science, like religion, separated itself from nature and therefore became an abstract science, a science of the intellect. Moreover, science has turned into religion. Now, like religion, it is built on dogmas and misconceptions about the world that have nothing to do with the real world and nature, and it doesn't want, and they doesn't want to have, they don't want to have to change their opinion and change this dogma and accept something new. Modern geometry is no exception. The geometric formulas we learn at school are inaccurate. The right formulas are not only precise and more elegant, but also reflect interdimensional relations. For example, scientists are still using, and we are still learning in high school, the wrong value of pi. The periodic table of chemical elements was deliberately distorted so that humanity couldn't find the secret of free energy. The history we know is almost all false or heavily distorted. Or, for example, everyone knows about the Great Pyramid of Giza, but who knows that under this pyramid there is another, exactly the same pyramid, and then the lower pyramid was built first, then the upper one was built above it, and the two pyramids work together as one whole. Now nobody knows why a step pyramid has steps. Nobody knows the true meaning of ancient symbols such as the flower of life, the seed of life, the tree of life, the jet, and the 9 Egyptian crystal spheres. There are just a few examples. Humanity has forgotten everything, but the saddest thing is that it has forgotten what consciousness is. All things around you are not what you think about they are. Science of ancient civilization was connected with nature, so people at that time had a more correct idea of the world. At that time, people didn't have a religion, but a worldview based on the knowledge of the laws of nature. It's hard for us to understand now, but back then people lived according to the laws of nature. Geometry was created in Egypt as a science of dividing the land equally among all people. Modern scientists know nothing about nature and they admit it themselves. For example, they have learned how to make semiconductors, but they don't know what the electrical current is.
Yeah, exactly. My father is an electrician, and he kind of says he doesn't even know. He even says like all electricians don't really know what electricity is or how to create it. Like they have no idea to how to create it.
Fortunately, there is another geometry born of nature itself. In this geometry, everything is superbly precise, everything is consistent with each other and connected to nature and real things. You probably already guessed that I'm talking about the sacred geometry. But for sacred geometry to reveal its secrets to you, you must approach it with an open heart. If you can stop your intellect, you will realize that the knowledge that is in your DNA is sacred geometry. The same applies to mathematics and other sciences. Official science and education have flooded our minds with erroneous dogmas, misconceptions, and delusions, and incorrect knowledge about the world. To get back to connecting with nature and understanding it, we need to change our worldview and our belief system. But first, we need to get rid of our misconceptions and delusions.
So there's a difference between sacred geometry and the man-made geometry that we're all taught. And something that I was really surprised about is that you reworked the math for pi, and you're suggesting, implying that pi is different. So, could you explain how your method is more accurate than the pi that we've been taught in school and the one that's been used for hundreds of years?
Of course, I am, and also some other scientists can prove the true value of pi mathematically, and I describe it in my book, these methods, and what is wrong with the old methods. But today I want to tell you something that may help in your life. If you want to find true knowledge, you have to remember that true knowledge is always one. That is, lies and delusions have many variations. True knowledge belongs to nature, not to science or scientists. That is why everyone can understand it. It's written deeply in our DNA. When you touch real knowledge, every cell in your body resonates with it and you immediately feel it. That is how I found the true value of pi for the first time. Later, you can check this knowledge using the usual methods of intellect, logic, formulas, and experiments, but they will only confirm that your DNA and spirit have told you. You can check it for yourself.
Yeah. And he does explain the true value of pi in the book. And the way that you lead up to it, it really does make perfect sense. And so, what can you tell us about all of this that is tangible for one to use in their everyday life? So, like, what can this knowledge do for us?
This knowledge can help you make your life happier and more fulfilling. It's priceless and designated for those who don't want to live their lives without knowing what the world really is and what is the main goal of our stay in this world. Now people don't even know the most important things. They don't know what our consciousness is, why true feelings such as true love and true happiness are important for our evolution, and how to achieve them. People talk a lot about all this, but have completely forgotten what it is. Each of this knowledge can change the way you perceive the world and your life.
Right. And I like that this is stuff that literally defines our life. But what you're a scientist, so you can back up these these words that sometimes are loose, like consciousness. You can back it up with numbers and real science. And so, speaking of geometry, what is, and can you tell us about the mystery of the flower of life?
The mystery of the ancient symbol of the flower of life has captivated minds for centuries. However, today you will discover the true meaning of this symbol. According to the law of the spheres, the more spheres consciousness contain, the more intermediate levels it has. But that's not all. According to latest scientific data, each person has several nested bodies of different types of matter. In total, we can have one physical, one etheric, two astral, and four mental bodies. Each of our levels of consciousness corresponds to one of the bodies of our spirit. The number of bodies and levels of consciousness a person possesses depends on the stage of evolutionary development. For most modern individuals, consciousness typically aligns with the fourth or fifth level. As one progresses in the evolutionary journey and completes the formation of all 8 bodies or 9 levels of consciousness, they reach a pivotal moment, the conclusion of the planetary cycle of evolution, heralding the beginning of the cosmic cycle. At this juncture, individuals attain extraordinary abilities, including clairvoyance, mastery over natural forces, and the power to select a planet within our universe for further evolution. The ancient symbol of the flower of life is a map of consciousness of a person who has completed the planetary cycle of evolution. That is exactly what the cluster of the consciousness looks like. The symbol of the tree of life is special. This symbol is a map of structure of the consciousness of living beings. By the way, our planet is also a conscious being. The symbol of the tree of life also conceals the secret of immortality, which I reveal in the music of the divine spheres. I could tell you about many other fascinating things that have come down to us from ancient civilizations, but we are limited in time today. On my website, milovanovbooks.com, one may find other knowledge, for example, the true formulas for love, happiness, and justice. Each of this knowledge is invaluable.
Yeah, they do. He does have some short, easy, digestible posts, like blog posts and uh, information about these things. And I really like that you were talking about the evolution of a person is essentially the evolution of the planet. And if we can connect and we can develop our consciousness to that degree, then we really have access to choose our next evolutionary cycle. And as you mentioned, it might be on a different planet, which is super exciting. So, this book is done. What kind of things are you working towards now?
I continue to work to bring true knowledge about the world to people. All new information you will find on my website.
Okay. All right. And where can people find out more about you and your book? I mean, I know that you got your website, but where else?
The Music of the Divine Spheres is available from Amazon Kindle and Barnes& Noble. You may visit also johnhuntpublishing.com for more information. Additional valuable information not included in the book is available on my website, as I said. There you will find everything you need for a correct understanding of the world and the development of your consciousness, including references to other invaluable sources of information. I hope that all this knowledge will help you a lot in your spiritual growth.
Yeah, definitely you're a wealth of referral of other knowledge. Could you mention your YouTube one more time?
The spheres of consciousness.
Okay. Awesome. Anything else you'd like to add to people listening or watching to this?
No, thank you for listening this interview. I hope this knowledge will be helpful for you.
Yeah, so Alexander, I really appreciate you coming on here. I met Alexander at a kind of like a spiritual conference, and he stood out to me. We connected, we talked, we started trading information. He mentioned he wrote a book. I immediately ordered it like while I was talking to him still. And there's a wealth of knowledge in this book. and it's not, it's pretty short. It's like around 200 pages, so you can consume it, but it's very dense, potent information, and I highly recommend it, especially anybody that's into music, sacred geometry at all. If you're doing any form of healing work, healing modalities, anything with energy medicine, this information is going to be really important for you to understand. Once again, Alexander, thank you so much for coming here and sharing a little bit more of your wisdom with us.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.